Hello and welcome to episode 162 of Good Games Well Played. I'm Clint, aka JSam. With this week is Isley.
Yo.
And Messiah.
Hello.
You're really quiet there, Isley.
I know. I was about to sneeze at the same time as the intro. Right now, I held it in.
I wasn't sure if maybe it was because I did it in reverse, saying the name of the show and the episode number, and like, did I throw Isley off?
No, I held in a sneeze, and then it was the thing where you're like, you could squeak out a little bit of a noise, but if you do much more, then you're gonna actually sneeze. Yeah, we're good.
Hi.
Crisis averted.
That's right. Yeah, we were out last week because of the Memorial Day weekend. You know, folks are out of town, so but there wasn't too much to say from that for this week. Although prior to when we would have recorded, there was an interview with Neil Druckmann from Sony. So it was like, instead of interviewing with some, IGN or other web page or whatever, it was just like a Sony internal interview with him. And there was a bit about how, like, they quoted him saying that, oh, the next project is going to like redefine gaming as we know it and this and that. And then he came out like, and I remember when this went out and like everybody reported on it. Because there's a couple of things as well. Like there was a comment about AI and how it was like could revolutionize how content is being created, yada, yada. Anyways, he came out later with a tweet and like all the reports like, oh, he'll say this, and all the comments like, oh, I hate Druckmann, he's so pretentious, yada, yada. And when I read the comment or the quote, I was like, this doesn't sound like Druckmann. Like I had it in my notes for if we had recorded that week. Because I was like, I've seen the guy talk in plenty of interviews, and like he doesn't seem like, everybody says, oh, he's so pretentious, but I never get that from him. He's kind of reserved in the way he talks during interviews, even if it's about something that he's done that's critically well received. And I was like, that doesn't seem like something he'd say. And then later that in the next week, like he came out and said like, oh, here's the full response of what I said. And like they totally butchered and just trimmed down and created the sentence that he didn't say at all and just made it up. And then like left out a bunch of other stuff. It was sort of like Sony completely pulled the interview off their website.
Weird.
Yeah, they said, like, in re-reviewing our recent interview with Naughty Dog's Neil Druckmann, we found several significant errors and inaccuracies that don't represent his perspective and values, yada, yada. We apologize to Neil for misrepresenting his words and for any negative impact this interview might have caused him and his team and this and that. And it was so weird because, when it came out, like, everybody was like, I like Neil, but he's up his own ass with this. I'm paraphrasing, but it was like everybody was saying that essentially. And I thought, this is doesn't sound like Neil. But what's annoying is like, go ahead.
God, I feel like the reason it worked is because it did kind of sound like Neil. Like, he is a little bit like that. Like, not necessarily in a bad way. He's got like a healthy amount of ego, but he's a little bit like that. And I was just, when I saw that, I was just kind of like, man, is someone trying to like prove a point here with something that like no one will fact check this or do anything? Because he's definitely... I wouldn't describe him as like pretentious, but he describes his games in a way where he's like very, very proud of them.
Yeah, he's proud, but like when you hear him talk versus reading it, like it's very much like, because even in his full thing, like he says, he's worked with great collaborators, yada yada. Like he's not all about himself and self-centered and thinks he's the greatest person in gaming or whatever, like as kind of the trimmed down, made up response kind of sounded. But yeah, it was because like I'm trying to pull up like the exact quote that was done.
No, the quote was definitely over the top, but I do think it was close to something he would say, and that's kind of why I was like, why the hell? Like, was someone trying to prove something by making this up? Because it's like, were they trying to see, oh, this is basically what he would say. Can we get away with it? It's just weird.
But yeah, because then I read like his full thing. I was like, yeah, this is not quite there. Because it said, I'm eager to see how this new game resonates, especially following the success of The Last of Us, as it could redefine mainstream perceptions of gaming. I'm like, Neil would never say something like that.
That's a very like corporate speak kind of thing. Like this is what you say to shareholders, not necessarily in like candid interview about your work.
But what's weird though is like, so they retract the full statement and that's the one he tweeted about. He had like hadn't some point out like, oh, he hasn't tweeted in like months. So like he came back to Twitter to tweet something that was just like, yo, I didn't say this. And they pull it, but they don't talk about the AI bit comment that he had. So I don't know how much of that was truncated. Like, so he didn't say like, oh, and then in the AI response, I actually said this and yada, yada. But I know that like higher ups at Sony are not like just Sony Gaming, but like Sony proper are kind of like, oh, you know, there's potential AI, this and that, yada. I think more on the movie side as well.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that could be he was saying it because he has to echo what top down is going to kind of push on them and whatnot. But when I was thinking about the AI comment, like, you know, we talked about, there was an article, I think from someone a while back, thinking how there could be potential for using it to write like barkers in a game, like just not, you know, stuff that people say inside conversations and not like the main story.
Yeah, like NPCs wandering around in Skyrim or something.
Yeah. And I'm like, so there, and we talk about how there's such a big, you know, wide range of things that AI does currently, and then the stuff that really people associate it with more like the arts and how it's kind of ruining that. Not everything else it's already doing, be it algorithms just for checking, you know, other programs that use you know, artificial intelligence. It doesn't necessarily translate to what people associate it with just generating stuff out of nowhere. And there was actually a good example I think about with Corridor Digital, where like they made a animated video. It was like rock, paper, scissors or something like that. But they took huge criticisms because they fed the AI like essentially just Vampire Hunter D and said, hey, make a video. This is the art style. And they created it. And it's like, you can tell it's very much that Hunter D style. And they got huge flack, you know, for training this program to do it and yada, yada. And they're like, and they kind of came out and said, yeah, you know, our bad. So what they did when they did their second episode, because they were just doing it as a test. And it's like, okay, we get it that you're doing it as a test just to see what it could do. And this is like from a while ago, like a year ago, maybe. It's like to see what it could do, but what the potential it has, and also some concerns. But it's like, you should have done it. So when they did the second time, they hired someone to make the reference material. It's like all the different angles of a character, create a unique art style, and then fed that into the machine. So it's like, okay, from that perspective, that's fine because you're creating the art and the only reference you have for the art is yours. And like, from that point of view, that's fine. So like, if you did it like, hey, let's say Last of Us 3. Okay, you feed, let's say, the barkers from Last of Us 1, Last of Us 2 into to read the script and just have it create some barkers for like, let's say gunfights. Like, oh, she got Joe, you know, the stuff they kind of shot there. Like, okay, let's feed in some barkers. And then you have someone review those barkers. And it's like, if that could save time, I feel like that's totally fine. If the only source material is your material.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so it's like, that way you can focus like, hey, let's have all the writers focus on the main story dialogue, this dialogue, yada, yada. For the small stuff, like, hey, what are the people in Jackson saying? You know, as you walk around, like, oh boy, a lot of snow, you know, and whatever. It's like, and then do that, see if it works. And then obviously they can refine that tool and be like, you know, these barkers are kind of weird. Why do they only have 4 fingers? And, you know, but yeah, like they could work like that. I feel like, okay, if it's only using your stuff as baseline and can help. And because I'm curious too, like, I feel like because when you think about like one thing that Unreal Engine does, Unreal Engine 5 and Nanite, is there's a lot of generative like creation of the world. And it's like, oh, if you place something here, like they talk, if you remember going back, I don't know if you guys watched any of the deep dives they did on Unreal Engine, but they had like a landscape. And like, let's say we want to put a river or a creek into this area. It's like, okay, we'll put the creek down. Then Unreal Engine will generate, okay, if the creek's here, then we'll have to have, you know, a rock bed that kind of goes up and has a bank and then goes up to fit into the rest of the environment. Clearly that's the system doing it, which is a source of, you know, artificial intelligence. Essentially, you're telling the system, if we insert this object here, you need to transform the environment around it to do it. It's like, that's there. And that kind of stuff I feel like makes it easier for artists. Like then you can go in, you can handcraft or just easily put something together and then go in and kind of minute detail. It's kind of like performance capture, right? Where they use like, especially with like the Last of Us. Okay, we have the performance capture reference data from the actors, and then our artists go in and kind of emphasize things that you don't get from the actors. I feel like that's kind of that handshake you're going to have with any sort of AI in development, where like it can do that initial front end stuff, and you have more time to refine and kind of be like, I want to tweak it around, or maybe like I like this based on, because you have your concept artists, right? So you can have your concept artists throw stuff together, and then your environmental artists, do stuff in the actual engine and be like, okay, let's feed this in, let's see what it can spit out, and then we tweak it like, I kind of like where this is going. Now I'm going to go in and hand rearrange stuff or whatever. Like there could be potential there, but yeah, as long as you're not, replacing people entirely and to make things cheaper, it's just to improve and help your process, I guess. But that's probably not going to be the case.
It's something that they could play with. Like, I guess with the example of The Last of Us, you have like a precedence of stuff that's already been written. If you just feed that into a generator and like go through and pick out things that work and fit the vibe of your environment and put those in, it saves a little bit of time and a little bit of like creative energy too that you can spend on other things and refining other things in the game. But I also like the idea of like just the devs being upfront about like, hey, we used AI to generate some just side dialogue and stuff like that, and it spit out some really weird funny things. We just kept them in the game because we thought they were funny. Like, just be upfront about it. And I feel like that's fine, because if you come across an NPC that's like says something really out of pocket and just like so random and weird, you're like, what the fuck? And the dev was just like, I thought this was funny, so I left it in.
Yeah, like a little Easter egg. Or like it could be the dev diary. It could be like, here's some of the barkers, like we had because obviously in order to do it, like if it creates the barkers, writes a script, you still have to record it. So like, okay, we recorded the people doing the barkers as it was written, just to see how silly it sounded in that scene, and then we tweaked it ourselves, yada yada. I feel like there could be, if you're the reference source, I feel like that is totally, then it's ethical, because you're in control of what it's pulling from. It's not stealing anything from anybody. And because like there was a game that came out, I want to say I think it was the finals, where some of the announcers were AI, like AI voices, because they were, I think the reason they said was that they were still in the recording process, and some of those were temp lines that were in there that they were going to replace later, but they had to get the game out. Like they didn't want to slow down the release of the game or whatever. I'm like, you could have, if you really mean that, and you did. I never went back to see if they actually changed it, but I'm like, okay, that's a little, whatever. I guess it's like
why do that in the first place? Because just leave the text in.
Because I guess in that case, what you could do is like, if someone at the studio, like, the voice director or whatever, like, hey, let's, record your voice to train the AI on your voice. Let's say you create the barkers, and then you just use an AI version of your voice to read the barkers to kind of get an idea of how does this sound when it's actually said versus being on the page. And then you pay your actors later to read it, what have you. Like you could do something like that. Like, okay, it spit out this barker. Does it fit the scene? Okay, what if we emphasize the, these words here? Okay, now let's punch it in. All right. Yeah, it sounds good. Okay, it'll be in the final product. Record it, what have you. It'd be like a nice, that way you're not doing like, because I guess that could speed up like your, okay, let's do like, 50 takes of one line of dialogue to figure out which one you like. But I'm like, well, then you're also, that does shed time away from the actors in the booth, and they're probably being paid by the hour. So that's negative actually, but I don't know. I'm sure a lot of things are working out.
Like, that seems like a lot of work versus just whoever's writing it. Just record your own voice and throw it in there. Like, that seems like you have to train the algorithm, and you have to like go through and be like, oh, well, there's the wrong emphasis on this. And I feel like it's just like, I don't know. It just seems like way more work than the person just recording themselves in Audacity or something and plugging it in and being like, okay, well, this is just a placeholder for now, and then we'll have them like actually professionally record it or whatever.
Yeah, totally. I'm just kind of spitballing here again. I'm trying to think of like ways like, oh, what could they do that would be in my mind like okay. Except like if I heard like
the doubt kind of thing.
Like if they had come out and they dev diary explain like this is how we're using AI, I'd be like, fine, whatever. If it's like, because if you think about it, like, even procedurally generated dunders, like the procedural generation is just an algorithm you're training to be like, okay, if you have this, then you need this. Like if this block ends in a doorway, it has to lead to another section. You can't just have a door and nothing there. You know what I mean? So like you're already training it. Like how do these puzzle pieces for your dungeons fit together? And then like, okay, you also need to have X amount of rooms for, you know, a particular difficulty dungeon or something like that. And it needs to have this amount of enemies and this amount of things. And then it creates it, you know, and it just does it in whatever shape it wants to. Like that's the same thing. Just a lesser version, you know, a smaller version of it. So it's like, I feel like there is potential, just not in the, hey, this entire level, you know, was created with just AI, no hands touched it. And, you know, we didn't do anything. Like, that'd be different, but.
No, it definitely has uses. It just, we haven't figured out what the correct boundaries for those uses are yet. Because it could be really cool for a lot of the things you just listed. Just, like you said, not for something that hasn't been touched at all or reviewed at all. Because, well, God, I say that and then I'm like, but then look at games like No Man's Sky, where it's all procedurally generated. No one did touch those, and they turn out pretty cool. So maybe in certain types of games, it could be used still. But
yeah, exactly. That's a good example because that's like essentially like you trained your engine to be like, hey, you generate here's the tools you have to do it. Just create something, and that's essentially saying. Now, I guess how you would change that with AI would be like, okay, does the creature on this planet fit that environment or something? Like maybe it has more on the back end to give a little more definition. And maybe if you, let's say you had some hand created aliens and you can feed it in there as like a reference, like, hey, you know, variations of this one or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, that is essentially like a less constrained version of the same idea. Like it just, here's the tools, just build it.
I think about that when people get all up in arms about AI, but it's like, procedural generation is a form of AI. The only thing is it's pulling from a pool of assets that have been hand created. Exactly. I guess the issue comes is like if you do it in Unity, where Unity has like pre-made assets and the asset store and stuff like that, it's like, hey, just make something, and it just like pulls all kinds of assets, like paid or not kind of thing, and it just you have absolutely no creative input whatsoever. Versus like you spent the time to create all of these assets and all of these scenarios and all of these like color palettes and stuff like that, and then feed it into your AI or your procedural generation engine with specific parameters. Like, hey, don't mix color palettes. Like, imagine how disgusting some planets would look if it just pulled all of these assets with like different color palettes and it just looked like a big like colorful vomit mess. And like it's you have to put in like keywords and stuff for the AI to pull from. So it's like, okay, well, these are all related, so you can pull from this set of assets, or these are like not related, so if you're using this base asset, you can't pull from these ones because they just don't fit or they don't like work well together.
Yeah, like that's how, I mean, that's like how Unreal Engine works right now. Is like they have their kind of asset store, and you like people can create like some sort of environment that they want, and then you can pull that into your environment and place it in, and the engine will kind of, you know, put it together how you want. So you kind of have like people can still make these handcrafted assets, but then what if like in Unity it was like, okay, they have a building asset bundle pack, and like you pay for the pack. And then you train it on the pack to be like, okay, we have all, because there's plenty of games where like, oh, I recognize this thing from is clearly from Unity. That was one of the things that the day before I had a ton of Unity assets just straight pulled, which is fine. But the way they talked about the game being so, you know, that was like one of the controversies. Like this is clearly just they pulled this off the store. It costs this much. You know, they didn't spend the money that they said they spent in this game, yada yada. But it's like, okay, what if you buy like a pack, you pay for the pack, and then you reference like, hey, here's a pack of 20 buildings, and then put it in there and be like, okay, you have those buildings that are creating, you know, as reference points, so you've paid for them, and then it just creates them and yada yada. And then you could probably do something similar for like environmental stuff, like, you know, pay for the pack, generate it that way. It's like, I like this art set for like a jungle, but obviously you can just take it and tweak it, but it's like, I want it a little more unique. Hypothetically, if everybody was using UE5 and everybody made a jungle game for some reason, you want to be like, oh, everybody's using the same, this tile from the jungle because it's so cool. It's like, now you can kind of like tweak it. Obviously you can hand tweak it, but it's like, yeah, what if you just train it to do a little tweak, but you're paying for that content? And I guess that'd have to be, I don't know if that's in like the UE license, like whether or not you can or cannot do that. Like, who knows if that's there, like you can't use these assets to train your own, AI thing or yada yada. But anyways.
Yeah, that's where I feel like the thing comes in, because it's like, it's the same as like the AI controversy that's going on with artists right now. It's like people are using art that isn't theirs to generate new art and stuff like that.
Exactly.
So it's like, even if you buy the asset off of the Unity store, that person may not want you to use their tile set or whatever to put it into an AI and change it. But also, like, it runs into that same kind of like ick feeling where if somebody's playing your game and they come across like, I don't know, a table or a dresser or something, and it just looks weird and it's not right, like there's too many knobs or the drawers don't connect properly, stuff like that. It's like, you took an asset that was created and then you put it through an AI generator to be like, oh, I made this asset and it looks strange. Like, it doesn't blend, these drawers are weird, stuff like that. It's like, why did you do that? Why not just use the asset and, like, I don't know, change the texture or change the coloring to match your environment? Why did you put it through an AI to be like, hey, match this environment, and it spit out a monstrosity basically, and you were just like, yep, cool, that's fine, and you just stuck it in your game with no oversight or anything like that?
Yeah, that'd be a big problem. Like, if no one's reviewing what it's creating, like, yeah, that'd be like, okay, you guys you're just lazy.
Yeah,
like,
right.
It should be more like, hey, here's because I like the idea of like, I have an idea for something, I wonder what it could potentially look like, but it's like, you have that whole initial draw it up, process of, whatever you have to do to get that base to work off, and be like, okay, what if I can just put it in here real quick? I have the history of my portfolio at the studio. Okay, these are the parameters I want, just to see if like my idea at least has legs. And he kicks it out and you're like, okay, it could work. Okay, now let's hand work or whatever. It's like quick concept of a concept, essentially. Gonna save time. You're like,
yeah,
okay, what if
you're like a programmer with a specific aesthetic in mind and you're definitely not an artist, like maybe use AI to draw up like a mood board or something that you could give to a concept designer or an artist and be like, what do you think of this? Would these things fit together? And then you pay them to like actually make your concepts.
To do their job.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, because it's like, like that's like one of the annoying parts of like getting a tattoo is like, hey, I like this. Okay, draw it up. Okay, then they have to draw it up. And then you have to like go back and look at it and be like, okay, now I kind of want to tweak it. I kind of want it more like this. And like, if you could somehow speed up that process, like,
God,
like, okay.
Yeah.
Every tattoo artist I've ever worked with would fucking hate that.
I know they would, but if you, like,
oh man, every time I've brought like sketches or something, they've been like, cool, no, this is my style. If you want to take a look through my portfolio here, like they're always very nice about it, but man, it is just such an interesting like can of worms, because it'd be so useful in many instances and people are just gonna fucking hate it.
Yeah, I mean, if they have a style, like, yeah, obviously you can't just do something that's not in their style. But I'm just talking about like a general, tattoo. Because I've had that where I've had like tattoos like, this is the idea I want. Here's the reference images that I the styles that I like. Can you recreate them? And then like add one. And it's like, okay, it's not quite the same. Got to go back and yada yada. It's just that whole back and forth can be like, again, especially because you're so excited to like get a tattoo. But again, that's a entirely different thing. But anyways, we can go ahead and move on from the AI discussion.
I could go on for days.
Yeah, so. I know. Right now, it's just a wait and see of like, let's see someone do it in that self-trained kind of way that's ethical, and then see how they kind of talk about it and yada yada, like ways actually that do actually improve game development and isn't detrimental to the people creating and what have you.
We just need like either effective legislation or something ethical, or it's just going to be unions take on AI busting and it's going to become a union issue in the future, which it already is, obviously. But
anyways, moving on. I think this article here is old. I'm trying to go back and look at the man, I hate for some reason, like, because I have two monitors and I have like, oh, monitor one is this. Like, if I try to click on the calendar, the date on the bottom, it only opens up on the one monitor. It doesn't do it on the other one for whatever reason. Like, Windows is like, nah, you have to click on their main screen. But there was one bit of news I have saved from before while we were out. But the Hunt Showdown is leaving PS4 and Xbox One behind with its next gen update that they're doing. Crytek is releasing a new update on August 15th. That's going to be, they're calling a significant relaunch for the Hunt Showdown. And especially the free PS5 and Xbox Series X and S update that goes live will bring new map, upgrades to the CryEngine version 5.11, performance improvements, yada, yada, this and that. But I thought it was interesting. I'm like, oh, if they're bringing it to, current consoles, like that's a game that's like, I feel has been pretty quietly popular in the background. Like I remember when it launched back in the day, it was like 2019, I think it was. Like it had like early access in early 2019, and then like later in 2019 on Xbox and PC, and I think it came in 2020 on PS4. But that's a game like I was like, oh, I'm kind of interested. So I guess if they did like a proper relaunch for a next gen update with a bunch of improvements, it could be a fun to do. I hear. Here's some stuff in the background. I was like, I was like, oh, there's someone at the door. I got to run away.
Nope.
But,
that has happened before on the podcast, I think.
But yeah, it's you had someone. I remember that person yelling outside or whatever.
Yeah, that was, dude, weird neighbors.
Gotta go deal with
people.
the situation. BRB. Yep.
But yeah, pretty cool next gen update coming for Hunt Showdown, so you can free upgrade again to the next gen consoles. It'll suck, I guess. I'm curious what the player base is on PS4, because like Sony talks about, they had like a big old business call. I didn't say it was an article. It was certainly like, half of their active players are still on PS4, and it's like, well, if you have a significant chunk of folks on that console who don't have PS5, who are going to want to keep playing that Showdown. But again, I don't know what the player base is like. So
I don't know. It's awkward because at some point you do have to leave the old generation behind. Like you can't continuously support the old generation, or you won't have any forward momentum. So kind of sucks, and it's been supported for a very long time, and PS4 still has tons of games, and we are, God, how many years in now? Like it's gonna happen.
Yeah, and then 4 years
how consoles go.
The base game, like that's a long time for. Like, hey, here we go. We had a ton of content, 4 years of it. Now we're moving on. It's like, seems totally fine.
Yeah.
And then the only other bit of news I saw from the week that we were out was that Jeffrey Wright was cast to reprise his role as Isaac in Last of Us Season 2. So that's really cool. Because I was like, man, I hope they just get Jeffrey Wright to play Isaac. Because like they did it with Marlene. I was like, just get Jeffrey Wright, man. So he'll be in there. So that's really cool. It'll be fun to see him on that show. And then the other thing, so moving on to current news, is No Man's Sky has their new Adrift mode, which is like, it just takes out, it was supposed to be like a small thing and it became a big thing. It's like, it like turns the game jokingly like into Starfield, where like there's no life anywhere. And it's just, there's this big old mystery, I guess, of what's going on. So it's like kind of a lifeless alternate universe, No Man's Sky, that you can explore. And I thought that sounds kind of cool. But yeah, just stripping out all the life forms, removes all the NPCs. So no shops, no trading, no shortcuts, no help. It's just survival. And apparently sandworms are there, but
God damn it, No Man's Sky. Stop it.
Yeah, they say, quote,
go back and play it again.
Yeah. They're talking about this littered with graves of lost travelers, saying, quote, in space, a new ghostly frigate beckons for players who wish to unravel the mystery at the heart of this new universe, end quote. And they say here, quote, Adrift was supposed to be our next expedition, which it is, but it's ballooned out into an update filled with improvements, new unique gameplay content, and rewards, end quote. So there's that. I know it's on sale on PC. I was looking at the ideas, like, but I'm still like waiting, like, because if I play it, I was like, I do really want to do just VR. But I saw it on sale. I was like, should I get this? I'm like, I don't know.
No Man's Sky is always worth playing. It just is crazy that like I continually, I don't know. It's one of those games where every year when we get the PS recap of most played games, it's always like second or third on my list, and I'm just amazed and I stare at it and I'm like, how the fuck is this still the second or third most played game I have? By now in PlayStation's life cycle, it must be the game I have played the absolute most because of the continual updates that are always free.
Yeah.
And then I always just end up restarting because I enjoy the game and the cycle.
Yeah. It's one of those games.
I have 2 continuous files that I always go back to. I have like my original file that I played on PS4 when it very first came out, because I have a very cool ship on it and it never got updated. So it's like kind of a broken ship. And then I have my PC file that at this point runs like Dookie, because I am very closely approaching toaster status for my computer. It needs to be replaced soon. But yeah, I have like my fresh file that I started on PC, and then I have like my, I guess, nostalgia file on PlayStation that I go back to every now and then.
Yeah. Is it crossplay? We talked about this before, I think. Because when it came out to Xbox, did they add crossplay for the multiplayer?
Yes, I believe so. I don't know why it wouldn't be.
God, I honestly can't remember.
I feel like I've looked this up before and I don't remember.
Yeah. The crossplay aspect of it is so... It's in the game and it exists. It's not like you can't run into people like you could before and like you see other players' structures and signs and things. But it's still such a... like... It's not a minor part of the game. It's just such not the focus that I've never noticed whether it was crossplay or not.
Yeah, they added it in 2020. June 2020, they added an update where they added crossplay. I think that's when it launched on Xbox as well, so that makes sense.
I also love the fact that every time they do a massive update, they were like, oh, this was meant to be a little thing, but it ballooned into this gigantic update. And it's like, you're just having fun at this point, I think.
How do they still have money? How do they make money? Like, genuinely, I want to know how they are in business still, but like other studios are not. I genuinely don't understand it.
Yeah, like are people buying their other games? Like, are they a small enough team that the sales that they keep making over the years is just is enough to sustain? Like, they don't need to make like, billions of dollars. They don't have a Bobby Kotick, like, trying to make them spit out stuff all the time. It's like they're just doing it because they love doing it. I mean, is it like a Minecraft situation where like it actually is so huge and we just don't realize it? But
they either have like a crazy anonymous benefactor or something that's just like, yeah, here you go, to make some fun things, or it's just like the team is so small and understanding of each other that they're just like, yeah, I did some stuff in my free time. It's not really a big deal. I mean, we don't really have crunch culture or anything like that. So it's just like, hey, I have this idea, and the whole team is actually excited about it, so they like all focus and work on it. I don't know.
Right.
I want
all the people that are donating money to Starfield, they get like 2% of the donations to Starfield, and that's how they actually function.
Yeah,
I want to be optimistic in that like they are just kind of like having fun with it, kind of thing. Like, yeah, maybe they're working on free time or whatever, but they're not considering it work. It's their actual free time. They're just like playing with things, and then they come back the next day and it's like, hey, I made this weird thing. What do you guys think? And everybody's excited about it, so they all work on it together.
Yeah,
I want to believe.
Yeah, it's just one of those. They just love doing it, playing so much. But it's like, I mean, how many people do you have working on your next game, but you still have people doing content for this game? Kind of crazy, but anyway. And another bit of news we got this week is that the Tomb Raider, the Legend of Lara Croft anime will officially be coming out on October 10th on Netflix. They released we had a teaser trailer a while ago, and they just released a little bit of a longer trailer. It's still kind of a teaser trailer because it's not all that long, but that'll be coming out soon. Curious to see how that does, especially since the gaming animation adaptations have been really good so far. And then the last thing we had is the Sony State of Play that happened on Thursday. So there was, rumors it's going to happen in May at some point. We have the Xbox showcase coming up. The Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest kicks off next week. So that's like, those are back to back. And I know there's like probably some other things coming up that I can't even, Ubisoft Forward coming up. But yeah, so it's that old E3 style season. So Sony had a State of Play. It wasn't a direct, so it wasn't like anything big. It was just like 34 minutes of stuff. But they kicked it off with showing a trailer and gameplay for Concord. This is from Firewalk Studios. It's a bunch of ex-Bungie folks there, and then other people in the industry, I'm sure. But it's a 5v5 multiplayer shooter. I watched it, and I felt like in the video, the gameplay, it felt like the guns didn't really have, and this is just early, so it's probably like months old. I know it'll probably change, but like it didn't seem like in the video they showed like the guns had much impact. Like when you're actually shooting people, it felt like and not that every game does. I mean, I'll talk about XDefiant later. Like not every game has like a good, you can't really feel the impact to another player, but it just seemed like there was less of it. It makes sense. Like, I don't know, some sort of feedback that you're actually hitting them.
Like the sound effect? Like it wasn't impactful enough, maybe?
Maybe. I don't know.
It just seems floaty. I know exactly what you're talking about. To me, it just seemed like it was floaty. And I saw that all of the gameplay, everything about Concord, I was just like, this is Overwatch 10 years too late.
Yeah, which is curious too, because like Overwatch 2 isn't doing well. Like people were super disappointed in Overwatch 2. They scrapped the one version or the one mode that was supposed to come out. So that's not doing well. So I'm curious if it does have ex-Bungie people. And now just because you have people from an X studio doesn't necessarily mean that what they did at the old studio will translate over to the new one, because you also have other people have input and yada, yada. It's just like, really, it's the expertise of working in that type of environment of the studio you're at. But I'm curious, like, because they have those folks, like, does the gunplay translate over to, because people like the Bungie gunplay, I guess. And does it have a place if it's a free-to-play shooter that launches on PS5 and PC? Right. In fact, I got to look because I don't even remember the title card. Yes, it will launch day and date on both platforms. But it comes out soon, like August 23rd is when it comes out. And the beta for it is, oh my God, you guys don't even list it in this article. I think the beta is either June or July. I have to look up the trailer for it. But I'm curious, like, if it's free to play, I'll check it out. But I am curious, like, because there's Valorant, that's only PC, and that's more Counter-Strike with abilities. And this, like you said, is definitely more Overwatch. But there's not a lot, like other games that have come out that try to do something similar. There's that Disintegrate, I think was also made of ex-Bungie folks.
There's not a lot of games like it, but is that because there isn't like a demand for it? That's more what I'm curious about, is like, do people actually care?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because like I'll talk about it later with XDefiant, but like Overwatch I was never interested in Overwatch because it was strictly just multiplayer. And at the time when it came out, it's like I just wasn't doing a lot of multiplayer stuff at that point. I think there was more single player games. I was playing that year anyways. But yeah, I'm curious, like, because Overwatch 2 isn't doing well, can you pull people away if you have a good, strong baseline and a nice stream of content, which if you're Sony and this is your first real live service game, not including, Destiny, because you bought them. This is something that like you got the studio while they were in development. So this is the first one you've been able to oversee. How much are they going to help support that live service aspect of it? Like, I guess there's potential, and it's interesting. Like they say, like, oh, every week you log in, there's like new story stuff for the characters, and I'm like, I guess that could be, because Apex Legends kind of like the story of Apex Legends is kind of told in the character reveal trailers, and which essentially come with every season. So every season there's a new trailer explaining the character, and you get more story. They also have some comics that you unlock over the course of a season that also tell that story too, which is really cool and kind of like, okay, as a multiplayer only game, it's a nice way to get story for this really cool universe. So I'm curious if that's going to be something that's not fun to do in this game. Like, oh, I want to see more of these characters. Like and they have a pretty big roster. It looks like when they showed like that, the ones section where like picking characters. I'm like, okay, you got a big roster, but you have everybody with their own unique abilities. Are you going into a situation where it's like, because I feel like, when you're developing the game, you might not see the meta, but once it's in the world, it's like players the ones who don't just want to have fun, who are like meta hunters and they want to be the very best, like no one ever was, are like the ones like only play, this guy's the best one because they got the best ability, yada yada, and now this is the best combo. It's like the people who always ruin the game. It's like, you go to ranked, you get out of here with unranked. I'm gonna play,
exactly.
whatever. But it's like, I'm curious how difficult is it to like balance people with so many, because the last stuff they have is like, okay, this is very familiar. It's like, oh, you have the armored character who gets like the armored skins. Like, okay, that's pretty common, like a tanky character. You have the vision blockers. You have like the ones who like throw down a wall. It's like, okay, other games do that as well. So it's like stuff that's very familiar. But I'm curious, like, okay, well, which ones are more unique to your game, and how will that fit? Because that's like any game that has characters like Rainbow Six, like that's this huge thing. Like anytime they come out with a new operator, it's like, okay, how does this balance with the other operators, but also with the levels themselves? And a lot of times they have to redo maps in Rainbow Six. Like, we retool this map to make it flow a little better, especially with how many new operators you come in. It's like the meta's always changing. I'm curious how quickly they'll get new characters as well, because that'll be so. I'm not sure how quick Overwatch 2 is doing it, but I felt like anytime Overwatch 1 had a new character come out, it felt like it was a big deal in the gaming community. Anyways, it was a lot like when Smash characters get announced, it felt like that kind of stuff. Like, people were so hyped for the new Overwatch characters.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's interesting. If it's free to play, or you want to play it, Isley?
Probably
like,
not.
I didn't think so.
I struggle enough with like the games that are coming out and keeping up with everything. Team shooters don't really interest me that much anymore.
Yeah,
some of them are good. I'm not saying they're bad. They're not my cup of tea always.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up the trailer real quick just to see when the beta is, because coming out in August, I'm like, that's really quick. A lot sooner than I expected, considering that they only just like showed a small nothing trailer. It wasn't even like a tone trailer. It was just like, hey, Concord, like a year ago. And then suddenly it's like, oh, here's the okay. Yeah. Oh, that's pre-order. Okay. When's sorry, I'm trying to look at, I think they announced the beta early access in a different, in the audio thing. So I can't listen to it, but yeah, I know I think it's the month prior. So it must be July is when the beta is. I'll probably definitely check it out there, but yeah, I'm curious how that'll go. It'll be interesting. And then, moving on from there, I'm assuming everybody here watched the State of Play, or at least skimmed it.
I didn't watch it live, but
okay, but you did watch it. Yeah. Okay, just making sure. Just some stuff. They showed like the God of War Ragnarok PC trailer, which like, okay, I guess you put that in the State of Play. That could have just been like a tweet, but all right. So that was there. That's coming out in September, I think. Why did you not put? Yeah, September 19th. Sorry, the way they did this article is really whatever. And then they had Dynasty Warriors Origins. I'm not a Dynasty Warriors person. Are you play Dynasty Warriors back in the day?
No, never did.
Back in the day, yeah, but I don't think I've played one in 15 years, maybe?
Yeah.
10, 15 years?
Yeah, I've never been interested in them just because it's like big crowd / hack and slash kind of game. Like, it never interests me.
It's very satisfying.
I'm sure it must be, because like they're very popular. So I'm like, I guess there's you want to feel like a god, just go and I mean, hell, they had Hyrule Warriors, right? Which is just the very similar style of game. It's like, okay, people love this.
I wanted to play that so bad, and I just never got around to buying it. Maybe I should actually buy it. Like, it's a very people. There's of course a subset of people that really like it because of the stories and stuff, and then there's people like me who play it because it's just mindless fun kind of thing. Like, it's just very satisfying to go into a group of enemies and spin around and watch them all go flying. So
yeah, I'm sure it probably is super satisfying. And then next they had an open world RPG called Infinity Nikki, which is an open world RPG from the former Zelda director Kentaro Tominaga. Like, I don't know who's making this. Like, I don't remember seeing the studio, but they showed it and I'm like, okay, there's like a cute cat in a hoodie, but then it seemed like, is this like a dress game? Cause like
I
You
don't
go
even
around
remember
like a
seeing this game.
It's the fashion game. It's, the girl's like, she's getting dresses. It's very colorful. She's like double jumping. Like, oh, we can't do it. It's like, it seems very kind of lighthearted fantasy. But then all of a sudden at the end, it becomes like an Elden Ring. There's like a woman with a mask and like tied up in like things, like arms out.
Is this the same Nikki from like the Dress Up Nikki games?
I guess that's what I was curious. It's like,
because I've never played those, but I hear that they're wild, I guess, that you should absolutely actually play them.
Yeah, it's an open world dress up adventure.
It absolutely is the same Nikki. Okay.
Infinity Nikki will see the titular character arrive on the continent of Mirrorland. Along with her friend Momo, she will travel to various nations, each with a different history and culture to explore. In addition, Nikki will encounter a ton of adorable creatures. There's no release date, yada yada. But I was like, what is this game? Like at first I'm like, okay, it's this kind of game. But then at the end, it was like, the tone changes. Like, what is going on?
I should absolutely get into these games because every time it comes up in like my feed of any kind, just like my peripheral social media, I'm wildly intrigued by the vagueness with which people are talking about it. So I think I'm gonna go download a couple of them and see what's going on.
You're gonna go down this rabbit hole?
I'm gonna go down this rabbit hole. I'm very interested.
Yeah. It's like, man, what is this interesting looking game? But and then there was another trailer for Where Winds Meet. Originally shown last year, I think, at Gamescom Opening Night Live. It's like a martial arts adventure game. It's coming to PS5, probably other stuff as well. Looked interesting, but it was kind of cut in the way where I'm like, I don't know it's from Everstone Studios. I don't know if they're one of those like Korean or Chinese devs where it's like you don't know what they do with the game. Looks so like kind of pretty good high fidelity, but I mean it looked interesting combat wise. I'm like, okay, but I guess I'll have to wait to see like another trailer. But interesting little one. And then there was Ballad of Antara, which is like a free to play action RPG. It's coming out next year.
Man, I was excited about that game until I saw that it was free to play, and then I was like, oh, it's one of these types of games.
Yeah, it's from Tipsworks Studio. I'm not familiar with that studio. I'm saying
it looked interesting. It just free to play always worries me.
It's gonna have something that's aggravating about it.
Yeah, like free to play games are designed to be annoying.
Mm-hmm.
Not designed to be annoying, but like
they're designed to annoy you into spending money.
Yeah, inherently have. Yes, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. And then there was a trailer for Skydance's Behemoth. It was a VR title from the folks that did Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners, which I think is like a pretty popular or like well received VR title. I think there's a Saints and Sinners 2. And yeah, like of course it's because VR. It's just bow and swords. Like okay, but it like looked pretty good. Visually. That'll be coming out on PSVR 2 in addition to MetaQuest and Steam VR as well. And then we had a very tiny trailer for Alien Rogue Incursion. I'm like, okay, this was not much of a trailer. I'm excited for like an Alien VR game, but it wasn't a whole lot here. But that'll be coming out on like multiple VR headsets. It's being made in Unreal Engine 5, so that'll be interesting to see what the final product looks like. It's apparently with an all-new storyline as well, so with a yet-to-be-named protagonist. So no super information there as far as where it is, but it's going to be a new story within the Alien universe. That'll be interesting. I'll be keeping my eyes out on that. Then we had another trailer for Marvel Rivals coming to PS5, obviously, closed beta in July. It's like, okay, there's that. And then there's the Until Dawn trailer, which we already knew was coming for PS5 and PC. I'm like, that's such a weird remake to do. I'm like, I feel like you guys could have just ported the PS4 version.
Honestly, I saw that and didn't even realize it was a remake because I was so confused as to why it existed.
Yeah, they announced it a while ago. I forget where it was, but it's like...
But it's such a weird concept. Like, it threw me off.
Like, coming to PC, that makes sense. Okay, that's why you do it. Like, okay, we made a port to PC and it's coming to PC. But I'm like, it doesn't look like... It's a different studio that's doing it too, so it's not the same one. So, but it doesn't look that much better. Like, yeah, sure, it'll run at 60 on PS5, but I'm like, visually, doesn't look that much different. Like, it's not like they rescan the actors, you know what I mean, or whatever. So, but I'm like, it's not. I don't know. Like, it's still looks the same. But that's coming out in fall. Then there's a trailer for Path of Exile 2, which is coming out in early access later this year. Of course, the other Diablo-like that's out there. I don't think I ever played. I think I played maybe a demo of Path of Exile 1, but never really got into it. Then we had a long trailer for a Silent Hill 2 remake, which I tried not to watch because I never played Silent Hill 2. So I was like, okay, if I play the remake, I kind of don't want to be spoiled on, crazy stuff that might happen enemy-wise. So I tried not to pay attention.
They didn't show too many spoiler things. Like a spoiler-free comment, it was kind of a weird trailer. It wasn't really that exciting of a trailer. And my only takeaway is, holy shit, they made the guy look like Leon Kennedy.
Yeah. I know there's some weird enemy I saw at the end. Kind of looked like a weird bell monster or something. I don't know if there's if that's a unique enemy from the game that's popular. Not in the same way as Pyramid Head, but oh, it's that guy. He's really annoying. Kind of like some of the enemies in Resident Evil 4 or something like that. But
yeah.
I try not to pay too close attention.
It looked fine. It wasn't the most exciting remake trailer thing, but it looked fine.
Yeah. I'm sure they talked about it more in the Silent Hill transmission that took place a half hour after, but I didn't watch that because I didn't want to be spoiled on anything about Silent Hill 2. So I was I'm going to skip that. Then we saw another trailer for Monster Hunter Wilds, which was announced at the Game Awards last year. It showed that trailer, so if you like Monster Hunter, you got that. And then they ended the show with Team Asobi showing the Astrobot game that's coming out in September, a full-fledged game on PS5 for just Astrobot. And yeah, it
looks so cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was by far my highlight. It looks really cute and really fun. It just looks very colorful and playful, and I feel like when every game is very serious, it was nice to see something like that.
Yeah, and it definitely looks like, I'm curious if the boss fights will be even more improved. It seems like, the return of a lot of the bosses from the first game are coming back, but in a different arena style. And then I'm curious, okay, how many levels are they going to have? What kind of unique stuff are they going to do with the controller? Yada, yada. But yeah, it looks good. I'm I told my kid was out, my oldest was out with my wife when I was watching the thing. I was tell Hunter that there's a new Astrobot game coming out in September, and he said, finally. like you were clamoring for a new one, because he played a ton of I think he got the platinum on the first game. He played it a lot. He liked doing the time trials and whatnot.
I mean, it was a fun platinum.
Yeah,
it was a fun platinum, and it wasn't bad. It was fun, and the game itself was just a blast to play and explore and collect things in. So I think that's great.
Yeah, hopefully do some fun stuff. It's not super overly complicated. I watched someone it was showed up on my Twitter. Someone was doing a one of the time trials of one of the levels, and the methods they use speed run through the level in 30 seconds were pretty insane. I was all right, you got a lot of time on your hands there, because it's a pretty crazy way to do things. But yeah, looking forward to that. September 6th, that'll be fun. Yeah, apparently it's they said in the blog post over 80 levels spanning 6 galaxies. So yeah, that'll be cool. Looking forward to that. But yeah, that was the state of play. Like I said, it seemed like it was kind of a big mix of a bunch of different stuff. I mean, outside of take out that God of War trailer for PC, you don't need that, and then take out the Until Dawn trailer, you don't need that. But everything else, it seemed like it was kind of a big hey, here's something that one of our live service games coming out in 2 months. Here's a trailer, an actual gameplay, and it's okay, and here's just a mix of stuff. Mm-hmm. It seemed like you were saying it was good. At least hopefully there's one thing that you like out of it, versus being a direct where it's here's 3 of our AAA titles coming out. Here's gameplay for Wolverine, here's this game, and here's Returnal 2 or something. You know what I mean? Here's what Blue Point's doing. It's not one of those. But
I will say, as a state of play, it was fine and it was fun. There were some things that I thought were interesting and others that I have zero interest in. I was kind of thrown off that it wasn't a direct, because doesn't Sony usually do a direct at some point in the summer, right around this time?
Yeah, kind of that's what I thought they were going to do, was it would be a direct. But I think because they don't have anything big coming out this year, I think they're saving the direct for maybe whatever's going to release in 2025.
It feels like they haven't had anything big come out in a while. Maybe I'm like misremembering things, but it really just feels like it's been a hot minute since they've actually had new things.
Yeah, because I think like the last direct they had, I think was the one where they announced Wolverine. Maybe was that the last PlayStation Direct? I don't recall. Let's see. Let me just YouTube PlayStation Direct. PlayStation Direct. The first hit doesn't help me at all. I just get state of plays. Yeah, I can't. There was a PlayStation Showcase in 2023. I think that happened right before Keeley's thing, but that was a showcase. What was it?
We don't know what a lot of them are actually working on right now.
Yeah, because the showcase had Death Stranding 2, that big old segment of it, and them saying like, "Oh, Kojima's doing like," so that was a big one, but it wasn't like, because I'm surprised they're probably having like, if the PS5 Pro comes out this year, as it's rumored to be in existence with all the leaks and whatnot, you figured they would have had something, but they'll probably save that for the summer closer to release and showing the whatever their I forget what they're called, the PlayStation super sampling that they're doing for their version of DLSS. I forget what it's called. They'll have to showcase that. So they'll have to do something. Maybe have Mark Cerny come out and talk about it, kind of like they did PS4 Pro. But that'll probably be later. And I'm sure that won't be like, they won't show new stuff. So they'll just show like, hey, here's how this game looks. And now here's this game, patched, running the new resolution scaler. So you can see like the frame rate improvement and not taking a huge hit to visual fidelity, because now you can, you have this new super sampling tech. But yeah, I guess they wouldn't have a direct and or showcase until sometime next year to show off their new stuff, because you figure Wolverine's not ready. Whatever Blue Point's doing, I guess they're not ready.
Yeah, it just feels like it's been a while.
Yeah, it feels like showcases are kind of like just that stopgap of, hey, let's show some small stuff. Because like Firewalk was at not Firewalk, Fair Games was at the showcase, I believe. They kicked it off with that. So it's like, okay, here's Fair Games now, and then we saw the hint of Concord, and now it's like, okay, here's Concord. It's like, okay, we haven't seen gameplay for Fair Games, but essentially that trailer was what you can expect. It's like a tone set for that trailer versus like the way they did Concord. It's like, here's just a CG of the characters talking, and then we show actual gameplay. So I'm curious. That game must be further out. Like, I'm surprised Fair Games isn't coming out first before Concord, especially based on the trailers that we saw when they first were announced or shown, which is kind of crazy. So maybe there's just more balancing or more work being done there, but who knows? Maybe that'll be a 2025 game. This will be their 2024 live service game. Like, this will be the more Overwatch, not cartoony, but, more unique
like
character design. Yeah, lighthearted, more diverse character design, alien, whatnot, more Guardians of the Galaxy style. And then it's like Fair Games is that more realistic shooter, which will be smaller teams and different kind of game modes that are more kind of like similar to what you'd expect from a COD or XDefiant or Valorant, stuff like that, and whatnot. So it's like, okay. And that comes down to, okay, now you have different live services that are kind of that different in the same genre, first person shooter, but different looks and play sets and play styles. So play the one you like. But yeah, that was the showcase. Okay, Sean, I'm curious what Summer Game Fest is going to be, if they saved anything for Summer Game Fest.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought the showcase was fine. Like I said, the only thing I was really excited about was the Astrobot game. I thought the free-to-play game looked good until I realized it was free-to-play, and everything else was just kind of, was fine.
Yep.
Either looked good but wasn't my really cup of tea, or I thought it just genuinely looked kind of blah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we can go ahead and move on from there. The news to what we've been playing. I know you both were out of town last weekend, and I haven't noticed you in anything, Zaya, but have you been playing much between when we were out and then afterwards this week? Play anything?
So I've been playing primarily my Switch, obviously, because we drove to Arizona for Memorial Day weekend. So I had a whole lot of time in the car to do things, and also like traveling around Arizona. So I've been playing primarily on my Switch. I started playing Farm Together again because I guess Farm Together 2 is in early access. I was watching somebody play it and I was like, oh, I want to do farming too. So I've been playing that. But I also started a game that I bought not too long ago because it was on sale and it was on my wish list for a while. It's called Fae. I think Fae.
Mhm.
Fae. It's just FE. It's just a cute little like puzzle platformer, I guess. Kind of a similar vibe to Animal Well, but it's 3D. So there's like there's no
I
dialogue
remember
kind of
that
thing.
game.
It's all like environmental storytelling. There's no dialogue. It's just kind of like you're kind of piecing together what's going on by the interactions and what's going on and stuff like that. It's cute. It has obviously some issues on Switch. It lags a little bit sometimes, but fucking what doesn't on Switch? And the camera for some reason is really hard for me to get used to. I kind of just want it to always be behind the character. I don't know. It's hard to explain. It just took a while to get used to. But it's fun. It's cute. It's not particularly difficult, and there's not really a lot of difficult puzzle element to it. It's pretty obvious like what you need to do as you're progressing through the level, and it's fairly obvious what you need to come back to do, kind of Metroidvania style. There's stuff that you obviously can't do, but you're not going to spend 20 minutes trying to do it. It's very obvious like, hey, you're going to get something that allows you to do this later. So it's not frustrating in that sense. It's just, I don't know, it's just chill. It's very pretty, very like kind of cel shaded, bright, colorful style. I don't know, it's cute. And I don't know where I initially saw it, but it's been on my Switch list this forever. And I finally bought it and started playing it. And it's not particularly long, but between doing that and like Farm Together, I'm maybe like halfway through it. I haven't quite beat it yet, but I mean, I'll probably finish it this week. I don't know, it's fun, but that's really all I've been doing. We picked up 14 again, Final Fantasy 14. We're both playing it a little bit.
I thought you meant picked it up like bought it again, and I'm like, how many times have you bought this game?
Well, I do need to buy the actual expansion at some point in the next couple weeks because we bought the collector's like box thing, but the launch of that was such a disaster that we couldn't buy the version that actually comes with the game. We had to just buy the physical box.
Oh god, I forgot about that.
So we have to actually pre-order the game at some point because I requested off work the week after it comes out so that I could just sit at home and try to log into Final Fantasy 14. And while it's logging in, I'm going to play the Elden Ring DLC. So I have a little bit, hopefully it gets approved, but I might have a little bit of a vacation coming up where I could just go full gremlin mode and just play video games for an entire week.
Rah, 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 rah.
Yeah,
Basically.
just full absolute disgusting goblin mode where I just wake up and immediately go to my couch and start playing a video game. So
That'd be funny.
So that'll be fun. But other than that, just I'm trying to find little things that I can finish before obviously Shadow of the Erd Tree comes out. So I'll probably finish Fae. I think I might be able to finish I Am Setsuna if I start that. It's an RPG, but it's probably the same length-ish
Have
as
you
like
not
Lost
played that?
Sphere.
You haven't played that yet?
No, I really wanted to play it, but everybody was like, "Oh, it's such a bummer," and I was like, "I don't know if I want to play a bummer game." But then I played shit like Lost Sphere and Harvestella, and those are all bummers. So I was like, "I should fucking just play Oninaki." It's from the same devs. It's a different type of game, but I was like, "This game's a fucking bummer too," so I should just play I Am Setsuna. So to complete my Tokyo RPG Factory playlist because I adore everything that they've put out so far. So if I can, I guess I should look up and see how long it is to finish that, but I can probably finish that before.
I Am Setsuna is pretty quick. I
Yeah.
want to say I spent maybe like 6 or 8 hours on it. It's pretty quick.
That's about like Lost Sphere is similar. I guess it's like a spiritual successor kind of thing. It was about the same length, so I should be able to finish it. And then yeah, just waiting for Shadow of the Erd Tree and Dawn Trail.
Nice. What about you, Isley? Even I know you finished. What What were we talking about? You
Alan
bought
Wake
some stuff.
DLC.
That's right, in the Alan Wake DLC.
Yeah, I finished the Alan Wake DLC, which I think I'd started it last time maybe, and I think I beat it in between podcasts, but I can't remember what it was. I think I beat maybe the first one last podcast or something, but yeah, so I beat Alan Wake prior to our last podcast, and then I downloaded the DLCs, which came with the remastered version, and I played both DLCs. The first DLC is rough. Man, it was really rough. The first Alan Wake, I've complained before to you in Discord and on the podcast about the controls. They're very clunky. You don't have fine movements. You don't have like fine motor controls. It feels like a tank sim, like the old Resident Evil games. And then in the first DLC for Alan Wake, they add in platforming with that type of control system, which I genuinely do not understand why you would ever add in platforming into a game that has tank controls like that. It's awful. So that was, turning me off quite a bit. I fortunately beat it quickly. I did play it through twice to get all the trophies. The trophies aren't horrible, but they're not fun, so it was kind of a bit annoying. The second DLC has a lot of the same shortcomings as the first DLC with like the platforming sections they've added in, but it gets a whole lot weirder and a lot more creative, and it's kind of what I wished I saw in the original base game. So like Alan Wake's sections feel like when he's in the dark place feel much more like a dream world, which I guess they can do because he's technically in the dark place as opposed to the game where he is. I guess he's not in the dark place in the game yet. He is in the real world, and the dark presence is just affecting the real world. But they go Silent Hill, Twisted Worlds, everything is a labyrinth kind of settings, and I think that worked really well for the second DLC, and it actually made me excited for Alan Wake 2, whereas everything else up to that point had kind of made me dread Alan Wake 2. So actually a little bit excited for Alan Wake 2 now, which is kind of cool. I have higher hopes for it now, and I think that I will probably download it and play it at some point. So I got that, and then what else did I buy? I did buy a ton of shit. I bought that. I bought Grounded, which I've only played about an hour of so far, so not too long. Or not, I think that was everything I bought. Alan Wake and Grounded. You tell me, did I buy anything else?
No, there's like other stuff that was on sale, and I said like Alan Wake 2 and Liza P were on sale, but they weren't low enough for you to.
Oh yeah,
to want to buy them.
Liza P. I actually might pick up Liza P still. Liza P is like 30% off. It was Alan Wake 2 is only like 20% off right now, which isn't quite enough to warrant spending the money on when I have like 3 games lined up.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, we haven't played Grounded yet. I was hoping we'd play it before the podcast.
I know. I have still only played the same amount of it as well, so my bad.
No worries. One day we'll
just
be
have
able
to
to play
suffer.
again.
It'd be cool to have friends, wouldn't it?
Yeah, if only, man.
My bad.
If only.
Zai's bad
yeah.
too, because she didn't buy it or play it either. So really,
It got
she can't play
scooters in it.
Well,
I'm
it just
not interested.
it has the arachnophobia mode, but it's
which
floating
is
eyes.
way more unsettling.
Yeah.
Is it though?
I like Lethal Company's solution where it's just text that follows you around. I don't want to be followed around by formless blobs.
Yeah. I still working on the platinum for Liza P, just slowly chipping away at that. I took a break and I was like, I gotta get back in this before I lose my muscle memory of all this stuff, and then it becomes actually a challenge to beat the bosses on New Game Plus to get to the point where I need to get the platinum. Mm-hmm. So I been hopping up back in there more frequently just to play it. And then for a bit there I was playing Hardspace Shipbreaker, and then I was having fun with that because I know there's like a story mode, like a campaign for it, but I'm like, I'm just doing another job. Now it'd be cool to do this job in real life, like floating around space, cutting up ships to recycle the parts. Like that'd be kind of fun. But like when I'm playing it, I'm like, I could see why people would like to do this because it's very kind of relaxing outside of having to go, buy more oxygen or, what battery for your gun, your tools, and whatnot. But like I looked like, okay, what's the story? Like, does it get really deep, or is it just kind of like this? I'm like, okay, it's kind of just what you'd expect from like a corporation kind of story like this. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But yeah, I played some of that. I don't know if I'll keep going through it, but I see the appeal. I think it was like part of PS Plus. That's why I downloaded it. So I played some of that, and then XDefiant came out last week, and I downloaded that and I played it last weekend. Then I played some more this week, and that's I'm having fun in that because they have like a nice playlist where you can play, like it's like a learn the game playlist. Like it's only people up to like level 25 can be on it, and then you get put into you have to go into the other playlist. Like, okay, so you know people have like min-maxed everything and have everything unlocked, and like especially because it's kind of like a slow progression to unlock stuff. And there's so many other guns you unlock, but you have to actually use them to, you know, level them up and what have you. And they have presets for different guns, so you can do that if you want. But so I'm playing that, and that's pretty fun. I have no mic. I just turn the mic off immediately. No voice comms, nothing. And it's funny because that has a escort, which is essentially like the payload mode from Overwatch. And I'm like, oh, this is actually really fun. Like I like this mode. So I was thinking like maybe in 2016 or it was that game came out, that maybe I would have enjoyed that mode. But I don't think I would have as much because I just like the way it's kind of fun because it's like each group or faction is like from different Ubisoft games. So you have like your group that's kind of like from Splinter Cell, and you have your group that's like from Ghost Recon, you have your group from Far Cry 6, and then you have your DedSec from Watch Dogs, which aren't unlocked at the start. You have to like earn them to unlock. So it's kind of fun. Like they all have different abilities, but the thing is like some of their abilities have like the Far Cry faction is very much like they have like healer abilities, like when you can either heal yourself with your ability, or you can put down like an AoE heal for your team. I'm like, that's cool, but that's only really good in like certain game modes. Like it doesn't work in all of them. And then there's like the Ghost Recon have one where like you can either have a riot shield. You don't have a gun with it, you just have a riot shield for a while. Or you can throw down like a little electric like shield that you can shoot through, but enemies can't shoot through themselves. They can break it if they put enough bullets into it, but like that's like a temporary thing. So it's like a nice little block some damage for your teammates. And then the Splinter Cell ones, they have one where it's like your suit does like a ping and it'll highlight enemies in the area for your teammates to see, as well as you. But it like the pings between the sonars are pretty long, and I think the silhouettes do go away before the next ping cycles. And I'm not sure exactly what the range is on it. Or you can have one where it's like you can go invisible. If you don't move, you have like a cloak, but if you move or shoot, like it disrupts. It's kind of like the sniper in Killzone. But so that's kind of interesting. And then there's also one of the other factions is oh my gosh, they're from the Division. They're like the flame guys from the Division. So they have like, one is you could throw this drone that just lays down a bunch of fire, and then once it goes down like that single path, it's like a zone control, a lane control kind of ability. It explodes. I forget what the other ability it has is, and then every group has like an alt that you unlock eventually. But yeah, like because of that, like it makes like, if I'm doing an escort mission and I'm on the escort team, I usually run the Ghost Recon with the riot shield, because then you have to be within a certain area of the robot to make it move. And then I just bust out the shield and I just make that motherfucker walk, and like no one can stop me for a little while. And like it's so good because I just get a ton of points just because I'm playing the objective. And that's a lot of fun. And they have one that I like where I don't know if other games are doing this. It seems like maybe they could, and maybe they have, like maybe Battlefield 2042 or a recent COD or something. But it's like some normal games have like a conquest or like domination, where it's like, there's 3 flags in the map, and you go and you capture the flag, and you have to go and get people to capture the other flag, in the snap, and then points stick up. But there's this one where it's like it roams, so it's like, the capture zone is here, and it's there for like a minute, and then after that minute, the capture zone moves to another spot. So it's like you can't lock down an area indefinitely, and it actually bounces around the map. And I like that idea. It's really cool, especially because like in the last like 8 seconds, it shows you where the new zone is going to be. So like if you know you're not going to take back a zone from an enemy team, you just like, I'm just going to run to the next one and just pre-set up or whatever. I think that mode's really cool. It is really cool. But yeah, I have a lot of fun playing it. Like I've had some really fun games, just tearing it up. Had a lot of like first place finishes on my team. I had like we lost a round, but it was like a really fun loss, if that makes sense, where it was like, it was an escort mission and on this one map that was pretty long. And like in certain maps, it's like, okay, if you get the robot to the checkpoint's usually that like 25% or 30% of the progression of the path they have to go. And the second one's like around that 70, 75%, and they have to get at the end. And if they don't move the robot for a certain amount of time, the robot will start to slowly walk backwards. So you have to like get back to it. And the attackers or the people on the escort team like respawn almost instantly. But if you die on the defending team, you have like a 6-second respawn. So it's like, if a bunch of people die at once, it's like, well, they're probably going to make some progress. And they got like really close to the end. They're like right there on the end platform. And it's like, we kept trying to defend them. And they almost shot, they had like 15 seconds left to get it. And they were at like 97%. And they start getting up to like, it starts ticking up, getting closer to 99. It gets to 99. They have a couple of seconds. And one guy gets to get to 100, like right before the end of the game. Like, okay. Then it rolls to us and we're playing and like we're getting through the first bits super easy. I'm the shield guy, just guiding off that robot. This is where comms will be nice because I can tell my team like, hey, I'll be the shield guy. You guys go out and do this, or I can call people out or something. There's no ping system, which would be nice if there was. But yeah, we get there and like we're in that final stretch, and that final stretch is pretty open and kind of favorable to the attackers, I guess, or the people trying to stop you. And we had like this tough battle. We're just kind of locked in that final bit. Like I would just run up and like get to the drone, to the robot, make it move a couple steps, and then I'd get killed. And then like my ult as the Ghost Recon is like you pop up this dome that prevents any bullets coming in. And you have like this kind of like close range shotgun like blaster, like energy blaster thing. People can just run inside and shoot you if they're good. But I would just like pop that and kind of run up and try to guide the robot. And we had it at like 99% for like the last minute. And we just couldn't coordinate. Like I'm sure if we were talking, maybe we could have, like if I turned that on, like try to help. But it was just like, we lost like that 99 point whatever to 100% because we didn't make it. But it was just like such a exhilarating, like that. Anytime I'd see it go from like 96 up to 97 and then stop, and like from 97 to 98 and then stop as I'm watching the time tick down, it was just so fun. And then like if you manage to, and I'm sure it's the same way in Overwatch, like if you stop someone and the time runs out at like 61% progress, as you switch places, you only have to get past 61%. So you don't have to get to the end. It's like just beat their progress and you win. So that's a lot of fun. So it is, I like playing it. Seems like I've played pretty much all the maps. There are some maps I don't like. But yeah, it's just fun. I feel like the TTK isn't too bad. I like the TTK. It's a little faster than Apex, but that's because you got like shields and whatnot in Apex. But I like the time to kill. I probably won't play it for crazy long. I feel like these kind of games, like if I play them solo, they're fun for like that first month. But then once people like drop out and only the hardcore and then like the metas build up, then I'm like, okay, now it's like, if people are playing in teams, usually that's like, okay, they know like, okay, we'll have 2 snipers, 2 shield guys or whatever. And these people and yada, yada. And it's like, it's a really good build for that game mode or map or whatever. And it's like, all right, now it's no fun.
When the tryhards take over.
Yeah. It's like, then I'm like, oh, whatever. And maybe if they add like new factions, that'd be kind of cool. Cause they can like pull from any other games, I guess, or come up with new abilities, I suppose, that each faction could do. But yeah, but it's right now it's fun. Like I like just hopping in, and because it's cross progression, like if I want, I can just play it on my PC, or I'll pull it up and play it on PS5, do whatever. So that's fun. But and then yeah, outside of XDefiant, in Hardspace Shipbreaker, I haven't really played much else. Man, because you got Grounded, I was like, I activated my 3 months free trial of Game Pass because Grounded's on there. I was like, okay, I'll activate this and just play Grounded for free, yada, yada. But man, Game Pass, like they integrate, at least on PC, I don't know if it's the same way on Xbox, but they integrate how long to beat into the UI. So you can see, like, if you're looking at a game, like, you see those stats, like, why doesn't Sony do this?
Oh, yeah, if you're looking on the PC UI or whatever, the interface.
On their,
Kind of a fun
their
little
app.
integration. I like that.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm like, oh man, just show like the how long to beat story, main plus extras and all that stuff, and like perfection, like completionist. Like this is awesome. And I can see like how long a game is or whatever, this and that. Like that's really cool. It's like, man, Sony, put that on your store UI or something. I don't know. But yeah, that was kind of cool. And then I think did I download anything else on? Got to open up the Xbox app. I think I downloaded some other. I downloaded Fallout New Vegas on. I downloaded that a while ago. I think that was part of this, and I booted that up just like, okay, let's play this for a minute. Then I stopped, didn't play too much of it. But yeah, I have that downloaded as part of Game Pass, and I have like a bunch of the games I put like they have like a wish list for Game Pass, and I put that, and then there are like just a bunch of games like, oh, I'm interested in this game, so maybe I'll try them down the line. But yeah, haven't been playing too much else. Just chipping away at Lies of P. It was funny when I'm playing Lies of P, I'll boot up a Twitch and see like who's playing it and try to find someone who's like playing it for the first time to watch, who has like low viewership, because a lot of people with the high viewers are like replaying it again for New Game Plus or something like that. And I found like this one guy who's playing like early on, and he was on like the second boss and stuff, and he's having trouble, and like there was no one else in chat. I think I was the only one watching at the time, and I was like giving him tips. I was trying not to be like, because he was going in blind, but I don't want to be like, oh, do this. But like he was asking for like suggestions, like, okay, well, what did you spec, yada yada, this and that, and gave him tips. It's funny, he beat the boss later that night, and then which was nice. That was fun to watch while I was playing myself. And yeah, when I was doing my New Game Plus, I was like, you know what, I think I'm going to respec, because you can respec immediately, and I respec so I can run advanced weapons, which are like any of the weapons that have bonus stats like fire damage, electricity, or corrosive. And I was like, I'll spec advanced instead of strength. And then I did that. So I've been running around like through the first couple chapters with just like this fun like fire greatsword, and then I got out of the area where that was useful to another one. Like, oh, now I can run this electric one, but I ran out of the upgrade mats for it. So I only have it like +6. So like, damn it. Now it's at the point where like I need like some of the later game upgrade mats. I'm like, I should have waited. So I think what I probably do is I'll just keep respecking back to either dex or strength. Probably strength. Those are the only like +10s I've got. And then just run through. And then whenever I can use that fire weapon or whatever, just to switch back. But yeah, just going through there. I got to make sure I pay attention to which, I know which boss weapons I need to get that trophy. Then I have to buy all the records, and then there's one side quest that I didn't finish properly on my first playthrough that I need to finish.
Are you
and the other one's like
playing it again just as much as the first times, or has it kind of worn off? Because I think that one of the cool things about Souls games is every time I play them, I still generally enjoy them just as much.
Oh yeah, I love being in that world.
If that would hold up with Lies of P.
Yeah, it's real fun, especially because I respec to be like, oh, now I'll run the advanced weapons, because I was just doing strength the first time around. I'm like, okay, move away from motivity, run this, like going through it. Like that was a lot of fun. You know, I just redid one of the fun boss fights that I liked a lot. Redid that one, and now I'm like on chapter I think 7, going through. It's like, and I thought about, I could just like speed run through this pretty quick, but because I need to make sure I kit everything. I was like, I gotta go slow so I don't screw myself up and not get one of the trophies I want. Because I'm like, I think there's one other I have to do where it's like I have to dig up something, but I forget when I gotta like look up. Okay, when do I find the encrypted device that lets me get this one that I missed in the earlier chapters? So that'll be fine, because I can wait until I get up to the point where the game like does its vacuous ROM moment. And like I know, like, okay, the area that I need to go to, I got to do this first before I complete this section of the game. So that'll be fun. And then, yeah, I'm still enjoying it. Like, it's still fun. The games, because I'm also using like a different Legion arm I'm trying out the grappling hook one, which I didn't really use, and like I upgraded it to max. Like when you can, not only can I pull enemies to me, but I can pull myself to the enemies, and then I can also do like this spinning, high flying attack slam on the ground, which is a lot of fun to do. So that's really fun. But yeah, just using different weapons is fun to do. You know, change it up. Try different stuff. There's this one sword that I think I might respec into because I think the upgrades I need for it, I have it because it's a boss weapon. And it's like it's a katana, but it has like it's like a Sekiro. Like people say, like, oh, if you like Sekiro, definitely use this weapon because like its special guard ability is like you swing it around you twice, pretty quick, and then like you do like a special block, and if you do that special block, you do like a really powerful follow-up attack, and like it's really good, but you have to get the timing down because it's not like just hit L1 block kind of thing like it is in the base game, which is easy. It's like you need to time the other swing portion of it with the enemies, and I feel like that could be really fun to master. So I think I might, in this section that isn't inducive to flame damage, just spec to technique and run that sword if I can upgrade it to max. That could be fun. But yeah, no, I'm still enjoying it on the second run. Like I said, I really like the world. It's just fun to be in. But yeah. All right. Well, I think it's about much. I don't have too much else. There's stuff I could say for next time. But yeah, hopefully we'll see. We'll have the Summer Game Fest showcase. I don't know if Xbox is right after it. Let's see, Xbox showcase. That's on June 9th, which is, that's Sunday. So it'll be after we record. But Friday, I believe, is when the Summer Game Fest kicks off. Summer Game Fest 2024. Yeah, I'm trying to see. Oh, Saturday is kickoff. That's weird. Is that really what it is? Sorry. Okay, the Guerrilla Collective is doing their stuff on Thursday. No, yeah, Game Fest is Friday, 2 p.m. Then Devolver has their thing, the Future Play, and the Wholesome Direct, and Latin America Direct, and all the other future game shows and stuff they do on Saturday. And yeah, then Xbox Showcase is Sunday it's at 9 a.m. So maybe with like an hour, I could watch it right before the show. Maybe we'll have enough. And yeah, and then the Ubisoft 4 is at 12 on Monday. So yeah, we'll see how much they show at the Summer Game Fest, 2 p.m. All right. But hopefully there'll be some fun stuff there. All right, well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. So thank you for all tuning in. Thank you, Izzy. Thank you, Zai, for joining. And we'll see you all next time.
Later.
Bye.